I'm Elizabeth Vargas in Washington. The president speaks to the nation tonight. He'll say America is addicted to oil and must find new energy sources. Homecoming. ABC's Bob Woodruff and cameraman Doug Vogt back in the U.S. this evening for treatment of severe bomb injuries. Dreamkeeper, the first lady of the civil rights movement, Coretta Scott King, has died. She carried on her husband's legacy. And together forever. The soldier and her dog, a bond forged in battle. What a day for them here in Washington.
From ABC News, this is World News Tonight with Bob Woodruff and Elizabeth Vargas.
Good evening. We are in Washington in anticipation of the president's State of the Union address tonight. Even before he takes the microphone at the nation's capital, it already has been a very eventful day here. The Senate confirmed Judge Samuel Alito as the newest Supreme Court justice, a political triumph for President Bush. Tonight's speech will be his 6th annual address to Congress. He is coming off the worst year of his presidency, from the botched response to Hurricane Katrina, to record high energy prices, to growing unhappiness with the war in Iraq. Tonight, the president seeks to seize control of the agenda and set a new course for the year ahead. We begin with our chief White House correspondent, Martha Raddatz. And Martha, this is a president who likes big, bold ideas. What can we expect tonight?
Well, Elizabeth, what the president wants is for the American people to concentrate on the future instead of the past.
The president spent a good part of the morning fine-tuning his speech.
Mr. Speaker, the president of the
Iraq and the global war on terrorism will be a central focus. The president will say the only way to defeat the terrorists is to defeat their dark vision of hatred and fear by offering the hopeful alternative of political freedom and peaceful change. The rest of the speech will highlight 3 specific issues: the economy, stressing global competitiveness, investment in worker training and education, and making tax cuts permanent. The American economy is preeminent, the president will say, but we cannot afford to be complacent. In a dynamic world economy, we are seeing new competitors like China and India. Energy, the president will say, America is addicted to oil, which is often imported from unstable parts of the world. The best way to break this addiction is through technology. The president will renew the call to find alternative energy sources. And health care. The president will recommend expanding health savings accounts and greater tax deductions for out-of-pocket medical expenses. For all Americans, the speech says, we must confront the rising cost of care. Aides say the speech will not be a laundry list of expensive new initiatives, but will outline the president's vision for the country.
It's an optimistic speech. It will be full of a lot of specifics on an agenda that will be aggressive for the American people and for the government to take on.
The president will also talk about elevating the debate in Washington and toning down the partisan rhetoric. Democrats say the ball is in the president's court.
I think we could begin to have a civil debate, but it's very hard to do that when it appears as though the administration and the Republican majority have the attitude that it's their way or no way.
The president will be on the road the rest of the week, Elizabeth, trying to sell his ideas.
All right, Martha Raddatz at the White House, thank you. The president faces some formidable political challenges tonight. We're joined now by ABC's chief Washington correspondent, George Stephanopoulos. And George, as we said, 2005 has taken a real toll on the president. Just how big are his challenges? How does he expect to turn this around tonight?
Well, Elizabeth, the country is just in a sour mood. Coming into this speech tonight, the president's approval rating is at 42%. 10 points below where it was last year. And for the first time in his presidency, a majority of Americans want to follow congressional Democrats rather than President Bush, 51-35. On the other hand, President Bush is still very strong on national security, which is why, as Martha pointed out, he's going to put a real focus on that tonight.
He really faces several audiences tonight, among them the nation at large, as well as the congressmen, Americans at home, and congressmen sitting right in front of him. How difficult will it be to get those congressmen, especially the Democrats, behind him, given the tenor and tone in Washington these days?
Well, it is a real poisonous atmosphere up here. The president has helped himself with his conservative base. He had some trouble with them after Katrina, but the swearing in of Justice Alito today really helps firm them up. But the Democrats are going to be a huge problem for him. Elizabeth, you and I got a taste of that when we met with the Democratic leader, Harry Reid, today. Right out of the box, he told us, I expect the president to do exactly the opposite of what he says. There is just not a lot of trust up here right now.
Boy, there sure isn't. We saw it. All right, George Stephanopoulos, thanks so much. We'll be here with live coverage of tonight's State of the Union address and the Democratic response beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There is news tonight about our ABC colleagues who were seriously wounded by a roadside bomb in Iraq. Just a few hours ago, my co-anchor Bob Woodruff and our cameraman Doug Vogt arrived back in the United States from Landstuhl, Germany. They are now being treated not far from here at the Bethesda Naval Medical Center. ABC's Lisa Stark joins us now from outside the hospital with the latest on the two men. Lisa?
Well, Elizabeth, Bob and Doug are here at the Bethesda Naval Hospital on the advice of the military because this hospital has the most experience dealing with the kind of injuries that they've suffered.
The C-17 medical evacuation plane carrying Bob, Doug, as well as wounded soldiers landed at Andrews Air Force Base to the relief of so many. Bob, Doug, and one other patient were then transferred to Bethesda.
They're going to be received by a whole team of folks that will be looking after them, from neurosurgeons to general surgeons, trauma specialists.
It was 9 hours earlier in Germany. They were loaded onto the medevac flight. Before they left, ABC's Jim Sciutto spoke to the family and doctors who were heartened by our colleagues' progress.
The mood in the intensive care unit here at Landstuhl this morning really was electric. Bob's wife, Lee, told me that when doctors told them about the good results for both Bob and Doug overnight, everyone broke into smiles. And as the doctors described their outlook as very optimistic, there was a palpable change in mood for the better.
Dr. Peter Serini spoke with Doug.
I asked him if he was ready to go to Bethesda, and he said that he was from Paris and he'd prefer to go home. So I sort of sensed that he had a bit of a sense of humor.
As for Bob,
he started to wake up more, move his arms and legs.
Bob's brother David, speaking on Good Morning America, said swelling on the brain has gone down.
This isn't over with by any means, and you know, as good as the news is, he's got a battle ahead of him just to recover, but he's made a huge strides today.
Bethesda Naval Hospital has treated nearly 2,000 service members wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Not only do you have the doctors there that know how to treat patients, you have the doctors that teach other doctors how to do it. So really, you can't do better than going there.
Now, it's not known how long Bob and Doug will remain here at the hospital. ABC will be paying for this treatment. Elizabeth?
All right, Lisa Stark, thanks so much. As we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, here in Washington, Samuel Alito was sworn in as the 110th Supreme Court Justice this afternoon. Alito watched from the White House as the Senate voted 58-42 to confirm him. Only 4 Democrats voted for Alito, only 1 Republican against. Alito replaces the retiring Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. The Senate overwhelmingly approved another nominee today, making Ben Bernanke chairman of the Federal Reserve, the nation's most important economic job. He replaces Alan Greenspan, who presided today over his last Fed meeting. The Fed raised interest rates another quarter point to 4.5%, its 14th consecutive increase. Greenspan ran the Fed for more than 18 years. ABC's business correspondent Betsy Stark has followed his tenure. She joins us in New York. And Betsy, it was truly the end of an era today.
It really was, Elizabeth. And Alan Greenspan leaves the Fed tonight as he led it a figure of mythic proportions. Just consider these poll numbers. While 60% of Americans rate the national economy negatively, 72% approve of the job Alan Greenspan did managing it.
The 79-year-old economist gave the cameras a rare inside look his last day on the job, a job he clearly loved.
He's like a doctor and a patient. And the thing he loved most was, as Dr. Greenspan, to diagnose the patient, which was the economy.
The diagnosis today, an economy that appears solid but remains at risk for inflation pressures from high energy prices. Low inflation, low interest rates, and record prosperity have been hallmarks of the Greenspan tenure.
The era of Chairman Greenspan will always be known as one of phenomenal economic growth.
The man some called Maestro relied on reams of data and uncanny instincts to steer the economy, and he was famously hard to comprehend.
I've been able to string more words into fewer ideas than anybody I know.
Admirers say his successor, former Fed Governor Ben Bernanke, has the toughest of acts to follow.
Would you have liked to have followed Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle in center field? I wouldn't.
For all the testimonials, there are those who say the jury is out on the Greenspan legacy, that his policies fostered bubbles in the stock market and now in real estate, and that as he leaves, both consumers and the federal government are drowning in debt.
The U.S. economy is not trouble-free as he passes the baton to Ben Bernanke.
Mr. Greenspan will also be missed as a master in times of crisis, and the new Fed chairman will have to prove himself a steady hand. Ironically, Elizabeth, that is just what people said 18 and a half years ago when Alan Greenspan, then a mere mortal, first took over.
History repeats itself. All right, Betsy Stark, thanks so much. And when World News Tonight continues, a civil rights icon has died. Coretta Scott King, what she meant to America. Our closer look. Silent killer, the heart disease in women that escapes detection. News today about how women can protect themselves. And an extraordinary tale of survival. An Air Force sergeant and her dog honored tonight in Washington.
This is World News Tonight, brought to you by Walmart.
We are with the sun smiling on us. What is ours, what is ours, what is ours is golden, golden, golden. Here we are, here we are, here we are.
Isn't it funny how the more you save, the more you smile?
When you're congested, mucus can settle into your chest.
I love moving in day. Nice try, but I'm not going nowhere.
That's when you need Mucinex. Mucinex is specially made to break up the mucus that causes congestion.
Uh-oh. There goes the neighborhood!
That's better. And one Mucinex pill lasts up to 12 hours.
Hey, got any room at your place?
Mucinex in, mucus out.
What Battle Water does for you.
Dry, itchy skin? New Ultra Moisturizing Lanacane saves dry, itchy skin from scratching with a fast-acting itch medicine most lotions don't have. Plus, it moisturizes as deep as the dryness. New Ultra Moisturizing Lanacane.
Me? I'm a problem solver. One problem I thought I'd solved? My acid reflux disease. I thought it was just bad heartburn. But when I went back to my doctor, he told me over time stomach acid had damaged the lining of my esophagus. He prescribed Nexium. Said I needed more than heartburn relief. My esophagus needed repair. Nexium healed the erosions in my esophagus. And one prescription Nexium pill a day keeps me healed and relieves my heartburn. My doctor did say other serious stomach conditions may still exist. And headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain could be side effects of Nexium. Even the best problem solvers need a little help sometimes.
Ask your doctor about Nexium, the healing purple pill.
We're going to take a closer look now at the life and legacy of Coretta Scott King. The flags at the U.S. Capitol are at half staff for the woman who's been called the First Lady of the Civil Rights Movement. She was, of course, the wife of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., at his side as he fought for equality. After his assassination, she devoted herself to their 4 children and to enshrining her husband's legacy and pursuing his dream. Mrs. King died overnight, less than 6 months after suffering a stroke and a heart attack. Today, those who knew her contribution remembered her.
One day she met a young preacher from Atlanta, and she fell in love with him. And he told her his dreams, and she believed in those dreams. And she decided that she would help to make them real.
All along, I have supported my husband in this cause, and at this point, I feel even stronger about the cause, and whatever happens to him, it happens to me.
She led through speech, even dodged the countless attempts on her family's life. When one of those attempts finally took her love from this world, she made the selfless decision to carry on.
She didn't give up. She didn't become bitter or hostile. She didn't spend long days and hours in mourning. She literally threw herself in an effort to build a living and lasting memorial to Dr. King. Mrs. King felt that someone had to pick up the torch.
Our theme affirms that nonviolence is not only a way to struggle for social, economic, and political goals, it is a way to conduct our personal relationships in our homes and schools and communities.
She would often just give you the feeling that we should keep our eyes on the prize. We should be committed to what's really important in our lives, our faith, our families.
Now is the time to fulfill the promise of democracy, freedom for all, peace for all.
She never flinched in the face of the adversity and the attacks and the darkness.
She had hope. She really believed in that song, "We Shall Overcome Someday."
Coretta Scott King was 78 years old. When we come back, detecting heart disease in women, why it's so difficult, and how to improve the odds of surviving it.
Hello, my flower. I'm stuffed up and so congested.
Nasonex relieves congestion and other nasal allergy symptoms. Maybe that's why 4 million nasal allergy sufferers used Nasonex last year. Side effects were generally mild and included headache, viral infection, sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing.
I have returned, my flower, a changed bee.
Nasonex treats congestion and other nasal allergy symptoms. Ask your doctor about Nasonex.
You open it.
Oh, no. Jim, you open it.
I'm not touching it.
Stop scary energy bills by switching to cold with Tide Cold Water.
Deep cleans even whites in cold water to save you up to $63 a year.
So your next energy bill might be shockingly lower.
If you use those over-the-counter drops several times a day, you may have chronic dry eye due to decreased tear production without knowing it, like me. And my doctor prescribed Restasis.
With continued use, Restasis helps increase your natural ability to produce tears, which may be reduced by inflammation due to chronic dry eye. It should not be used by patients with active eye infections and has not been studied in patients with a history of herpes viral infections of the eye. The most common side effect is a burning sensation.
More of my own tears. Thanks, Restasis.
This time last year, Jack was diagnosed with high cholesterol, which meant he could develop heart disease. And he didn't know other factors could increase his risk even more. He felt okay. He really thought he was fine. He wasn't. But instead of doing nothing, he got the facts. Jack found over time, cholesterol can turn a healthy artery into a clogged artery. So, as remarkable as the heart is, Jack needed information on how to help protect it. He got the My Heart Now kit. It's yours free by visiting myheartkit.com or calling 1-866-707-9300. Like Jack, you'll learn about high cholesterol and other risk factors. You'll also receive information about a proven treatment that can lower cholesterol to help reduce your risk. Now, Jack's biggest concern is wait till his wife sees the mess in the kitchen. Take care of your heart. Call 1-866-707-9300 for your free My Heart Now kit.
Tomorrow, World News Tonight brings you the latest reaction to the President's State of the Union address, plus the culture wars and the Academy Awards.
What if you and me had a little...
Furious response to the film that's come away with 8 Oscar nominations on World News Tonight.
In California overnight, the first deadly shooting at a postal installation in nearly 8 years. 5 people died when a former postal worker entered the mail processing plant near Santa Barbara and opened fire. She then turned the gun on herself. Police don't know how she got into the guarded facility. It is believed to be the deadliest workplace shooting ever by a woman. There is important news today about why so many women die without warning of heart attacks. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women in America, but a new study has found that as many as 3 million women have what's called hidden heart disease. Some will not be diagnosed until it's too late. Here's ABC's Barbara Pinto.
For Shirley Caswinkle, the episodes were frequent and frightening.
To me, it seemed like if someone was putting a pillow on my face and I just couldn't get my oxygen.
Each time she would race to the emergency room. 5 times the answer was the same.
Nothing was wrong. So I began to believe them.
But something was wrong. It took 10 years, but Shirley was eventually diagnosed with advanced heart disease. Her story is not unique. That's because women's blockages build up evenly on artery walls, narrowing the channel, while men's accumulate as visible clumps.
Only about 1/3 of women will have classic Hollywood heart attack type symptoms.
Women may feel extreme fatigue, shortness of breath, nausea, dizziness, or experience pain in their shoulders, jaw, and neck.
A woman should worry when her gut or her heart tells her that things are not right, even if her physician has told her so.
For 60% of women, the first sign of heart disease is a heart attack.
Doctors are now researching different tests, diagnostic tools that have been underutilized in treating female patients.
They include stress echocardiograms that can see how the heart pumps under stress, 64-row CT scans that give doctors a clear picture of the vessels around the heart, and coronary angiography, where a tiny tube is inserted into the coronary arteries. That helped reveal Shirley Caswinkle's condition.
I'm greatly relieved to know what the problem is.
Shirley now takes drugs to lower her blood pressure and cholesterol. Treatment only possible with a correct diagnosis. Barbara Pinto, ABC News, Chicago.
On Broadcast Plus, we've posted an interview with the lead investigator of the NIH study with additional details about the symptoms of heart disease that should raise a red flag for women. That's on our website at wnt.abcnews.com. And when we return, the Air Force Sergeant, her dog Rex, and the act of Congress that kept them together.
La 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 la, life is wonderful. La 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 la, life goes full circle. La 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 la, life is wonderful. La 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 la.
Taxes are done. Our taxes are done.
What? Shouldn't we have gone to one of those tax stores?
Why? TurboTax asks me questions just like the tax guy does, then puts the answers on all the right forms.
But the tax guy checks it.
TurboTax checks for errors and missed deductions.
How do we know it's right?
All calculations are guaranteed accurate. Over 20 million returns were prepared with TurboTax last year alone.
Well, if it's so good, then how much are we getting back? Wow!
TurboTax. Taxes made easy. Taxes done right.
A sore throat is bad enough. A cough can blast it with painful shock waves. Now there's one lozenge, Cepacol Sore Throat Plus Cough. The only lozenge with pain-numbing anesthetic plus cough suppressant. New Cepacol Sore Throat Plus Cough.
I wish I lived closer to the office. Not this close.
This one's only a 10-minute commute.
Find your perfect place. It's easy with RE/MAX. Nobody sells more real estate than RE/MAX.
We asked Lindsay Allen how new Ambien CR helped her with her sleeping trouble. Well, there you are. New Ambien CR has a controlled release formula in a 2-layer tablet. The first layer dissolves quickly to help you get to sleep fast, while the second layer dissolves slowly to help you stay asleep. So you can wake up and get ready for your day. New Ambien CR is one of many treatment options in addition to lifestyle changes that you and your doctor can consider. Ambien CR is non-narcotic. Until you know how Ambien CR will affect you, you shouldn't drive or operate machinery. Side effects may include next-day drowsiness, dizziness, and headache. You shouldn't take it with alcohol. All sleep medicines carry some risk of dependency. Do not use sleep medicines for extended periods without first talking to your doctor. Be sure you're able to devote 7 to 8 hours to sleep before you need to be active again. Ask your doctor about the new Ambien. New Ambien CR. Tomorrow will thank you.
Their job, set the innocent free.
She got railroaded by a crooked DA.
Sometimes their personal lives get in the way.
You knew he was dating her?
I don't want you to go there. If we start changing the rules when they affect your love life, I quit.
All new Injustice, Friday 9, 8 Central, only on ABC.
Tomorrow, for the morning's first word on what Americans really thought about what the president has to say tonight, turn first to Good Morning America. Plus, Senators John McCain and Barack Obama speak out from both sides of the aisle. Only on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Finally tonight, it's always a memorable night over at the Capitol when a president delivers his State of the Union address. Legislators, Supreme Court justices, ambassadors all assembled. Tonight, the guests will include an Air Force sergeant and her dog, invited by the president to sit with the First Lady in the balcony. A special honor for a special partnership.
Sergeant Jamie Dana and her German Shepherd Rex are here today to thank those who made it possible for them to be together.
Oh, thanks for having me. More importantly, hello, buddy.
This is Rex. Their journey began 3 years ago. Sergeant Dana and Rex were a team assigned to search for explosives, first in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and then in Iraq.
With Rex, I put my life in Rex's hands. We're going looking for bombs, and if he doesn't find the bomb, we could both get blown up. He's a good boy.
Last June, after only 3 weeks in Iraq, while Sergeant Dana and Rex were on routine patrol,
They said it was a very large IED. It basically went off right underneath the seat I was sitting in, and Rex was sitting right beside me.
Sergeant Dana was seriously hurt. In her last moments of consciousness, she was desperate to know if Rex had survived.
So I finally grabbed hold of the medic's arm and asked them, is my dog dead? And they told me yes. And that broke my heart.
Sergeant Dana fell into a coma, which lasted a month.
As soon as I was kind of conscious enough to know what was going on, I started asking about, Rex, what had happened to him. And that's when they told me he was alive. And when he came in there, he just jumped on my bed, and started licking my hand. And just to see him, to touch him, to know he was alive, it was wonderful.
In fact, Rex had escaped with just a bump on his head, a burn on his nose, and a cut on his paw.
They'd be asking him, do you need anything? I was like, yeah, I need to adopt my dog.
Deal. Good boy. But that would be impossible. The Air Force had invested time and money to train Rex, and he still had 5 to 10 years left in his hitch.
Rex and I have been a team for so long, and I knew eventually I had to give him up. But then when we almost died together, it's like, how can I give him up?
For them to be reunited, it would take an act of Congress.
It just seemed like that Rex ought to be hers. And today, Rex is hers. Every once in a while, Congress gets something right. They got this one right.
Last month, Congress voted to waive the rules for Sergeant Jamie Dana and Rex, and the president signed off on it. Earlier this month, Rex was formally discharged. After 8 years in the Air Force, Sergeant Dana is hoping to start a new life as a veterinarian with her best friend.
He's been by my side for so long, and he was by my side through good and bad, so hopefully he'll always be there.
And they will be in the audience tonight watching the President's State of the Union. And we hope you'll join us later for our coverage of the State of the Union address. It begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on ABC. For Bob Woodruff and all of us at ABC News, I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Good night now from Washington.
It's the sensation that's brought 91 million to their feet. With only 6 stars left, the competition is fierce.
It's crunch time.
TV's most spectacular event.
It's going to be hot.
Live. Dancing with the Stars. Thursday, 8/7 Central, only on ABC.
Captain D's is putting a scrumptious new spin on shrimp. Introducing Shrimp Pasta Bowls, an inspired combination in 3 delicious Italian flavors. Start with our rich, cheesy, and irresistibly creamy shrimp Alfredo, or spin into the tomato goodness of our spicy shrimp marinara. And don't forget our rich and buttery garlic shrimp scampi. At $3.99, they're a treat for the senses and your budget. New Shrimp Pasta Bowls, only at Captain D's.
Now on News 2,
A presidential visit, what we will see when the commander-in-chief comes to Nashville tomorrow. Honoring Mrs. King, a local civil rights pioneer pays tribute to an American icon. And fitness challenge. Celebrities join a new push to get mid-state students in shape. This is News 2 at 6.
News 2 at 6 starts now.
For the good of families, children, and society, I support a constitutional amendment to protect the institution of marriage.
President Bush used last year's State of the Union address to deliver a strong message. Tonight, he returns to Congress to make his 5th such speech. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Bush will deliver this address at a crucial time in his presidency.
The latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll put the president's approval rating at 39%.